You're listening to the Not For Clicks podcast.
You don't realise the pressure they're under every day to deliver.
Poor Jerry Halliwell all over the Netflix series.
I doesn't watch 90 minutes of football, let alone sit down and listen to them man jibber jabber.
What's happening, people? This is the Not For Clicks sports podcast. I am Jordan Jarrett Bryan. I'm joined by the boys. He is Ollie. That is Marvin. Gabriel is not with us this week, but we're okay with that. But stepping in for Gabriel this week, we've brought in another one of our friends and guests from the previous pod that we all did together in its previous iteration. Joel Campbell, aka Dready Man, sports and entertainment editor of The Voice. Good evening, sir. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming back on, man. Lads, how we doing? We well?
Doing good, Jude. Doing good, yeah.
I'm not going to have to break up any kind of scraps between you, Ollie, and Marv tonight. We're all friends and family tonight, right?
Nah, we're not, man. Let's not.
What have I walked into?
Let's
not fake it. But this is why we're hearing it. It's unfiltered, and Ollie and I.
It's true.
We'll keep it 100 with each other forever. So that's as simple as that.
I hear it.
We'll acquiesce and pull your pants down for the highest bidder.
Starting already.
We're true to our word.
We're starting already. All right.
I don't know. Did we bleep out?
We'll edit that bit out. Yeah, we'll edit that bit out. That whole bit of Marvin will get cut out. So yeah, we'll just move on.
I'm going to weave it into every answer I do, just so it's cut it. Anyway, sorry.
Never that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't to the podcast here on YouTube. We're on all the podcast outlets. Share, subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Any questions you got for the boys. Any topics you want us to cover, also let us know in the comments. Share the thing in all the WhatsApp groups. It all makes a difference. Okay, let's kick off, guys, with our usual quick hits. Let me start with you, Ollie. Who has the greater claim to being a GOAT? Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods?
A greater claim.
If there's only one spot, who do you think?
I'd say Tiger. I'd go with Tiger. Because he's broken a barrier in terms of there was no one like him before. There's no black guys playing golf before him.
Or after.
And after, yeah. And he got derailed by all the controversy that was around him for a few years, but from taking over Jack Nicklaus, winning the most slams, but I still think that he's made a bigger mark on his sport, shall we say? I think there's been other great basketball players. Jordan's great, but there's been other great basketball players, black basketball players, should I say? But Tiger's one of a kind, so I'm going with Tiger.
All right, Marvin. This weekend is the big fight between Anthony Joshua and Ngannou. If we're to assume that AJ is going to win this fight, for you, does it matter how he wins the fight, or it's just a case of it's just more important that he wins because in 6 weeks' time, no one's going to really be talking about the way he won it?
Yeah, I think ultimately he can't lose, right? If he wins it on points, if it's not a pretty fight, fine. As long as he doesn't lose. To be fair, I thought Fury, if I was a judge, I would have had Fury lose the fight against Ngannou. And I can't lie to you, Jordan. I'm concerned for Joshua. It's all about the cash. So you know what? Get paid, but this is a potential banana skin. So we'll see. I think it's an 11 o'clock fight on a Friday, which is quite interesting. So I'll be watching, and I'm hoping he hasn't taken pay over legacy, because if he loses that, I think it makes the chance of him fighting the winner of Usyk Fury a bit different. I think I'd be very surprised if he knocks him out, but if he can show the difference in class between a boxer and an MMA fighter, I think that will help his case long term.
Hey, Joe, you finally, as a former believer of Maurizio Pochettino, when he's sacked by Chelsea, do you think he'll get stained by that, or do you think he'll get a bit of grace because people will look at it as it's Chelsea?
I'm going to struggle to understand what you mean by Ace Chelsea, just so I don't assume anything.
They're a mess. They're a mess right about now.
All over
their
the place,
ownership.
right? In transition, let's be polite. I think that it'll be a bit of both. I think there's people that knew the writing was on the wall as soon as he stepped in there. And if he'd done anything positive and, I don't know, buck the trend, then it would have been, walking on water type efforts. I think he's gone in there and tried to establish himself, but it's difficult to do at a club like that that's been hardwired for so long under a previous regime, and he's right in the throes of that transition. They've tried stuff and thrown stuff against the wall. It hasn't stuck, and I think it's difficult to kind of make whatever you want to do stick in those circumstances, and you can go on and on and on about whether he shoulda, woulda, coulda. You started the question correctly, innit? When he's sacked, when they part ways, there'll be an inquest, and I think it'll be 50-50. I think people will understand, but I think also there will be those who will use this as a stick to beat him with for the rest of his career. So it is what it is.
I hear you. Okay, we're going to be talking about a few things to our listeners and viewers tonight. We're going to get to some pundit chat a bit later on, and I think the question I'll be asking the boys is, the central question will be, how underserved as football fans and consumers do we feel in regards to football pundits? Athletics, this summer is the Olympics. We've got Joel on, who's a big... Am I right in saying, Joel, that track and field is your favourite sport, or one of your favourite sports?
Yeah, no, definitely. Of the Olympic sports, track and field is definitely what I look out for. So, yeah, you're right there.
Okay, so we'll get into that a bit later on. And we'll be doing our usual Doc Watch and Willis section as well. But we're going to kick off, guys, with Rashford. Marcus Rashford in the headlines all week and over the weekend. Big goal on the weekend, but ultimately consensus is that that's as good as it got in the Manchester derby. But that followed his interview, which I thought was quite dull, and a bit of a nothing interview he did in the Players' Tribune a few days earlier. And the question I want to start off with, and I'll start with you, Ollie, is, are we harsh on Marcus Rashford? And we being the football public, football fans, and also the media?
I don't think I think so much is expected of him, and I think it kind of goes in fits and starts with Rashford. He had a great season last season, and then he's kind of slipped back into a trough this season, and you kind of wonder what's going on with him, whether, why he's not focused on his game, why he's being caught out doing things outside of the game that he probably shouldn't be, or he definitely shouldn't be doing. And, he's got so much to play for. I don't know. I mean, I can only speculate, but you kind of wonder, is his relationship with Ten Hag what it should be for whatever reason? Because I just don't understand how you go from a player who seemed really focused last season to just seeming like none of it really matters to him at the moment. I don't really understand how you kind of, in a year where we're looking at Euros in the summer, you'd think that he'd be trying to get himself into the team as a first pick for Southgate, and yet he's seriously slipped down the pecking order. So I don't really know what's going on with him, but yeah, I think that there is reason to question why his form keeps dipping, and we see him play well 1 minute, and we saw what he did on Sunday. And we realise that he can do it when he puts his mind to it, but he just doesn't seem to be able to do it for sustained periods. So he's obviously not quite there for some reason, but who knows why that is.
I guess, Joel, to kind of, answer the question of whether we're harsh on him or not, we have to establish how much we rate him, right? Because harshness is relevant to, how much do you rate someone in the first place? So let me ask you, and then I'll come to Marvin. How good do you think Marcus Rashford actually is?
Difficult to answer. I think he's a very good player, right? In a nutshell. I think if you've got a winning outfit, I think Marcus Rashford helps that winning outfit. I don't think he takes away from it. You could always argue there'd be better players in his position, right? I don't think we're too harsh on him. I think he come flying out the traps. And if you look at the first couple of years of his career in the first team, he's got a few trophies that he's won. So he's part of a winning outfit. He's picking up trophies. He's the young star boy of that outfit, and he can't put a foot wrong, really. Criticism is part of the course. Show me a player who has that type of elevation who hasn't been criticised. So I just think it is what it is when your stock shines a little bit brighter than the rest, whether rightly so or not. Irrespective of what people's opinions are, I think his stock shines brighter than the rest, and so he's judged a little bit harsher. And that's just what happens with homegrown star talent.
Well, I guess, Marvin, that's kind of the point. I guess that I feel like there isn't a player in the country, I'm trying to think very quickly, who receives as much airtime negatively as Marcus Rashford. And I guess as a United fan, do you think that is justified because he's not performing on the pitch, as Ollie said, coupled with the fact that off the field there's been some antics there? Do you think even with those things in the pot, the criticism has gone too far for him?
Well, we know why he's getting criticised, don't we? Let me tell you, the media dialed up the criticism of Marcus Rashford as soon as he started feeding thousands of hungry children. Before that, Marcus Rashford was criticised, I think, proportionately to his performances. The minute he went on that pedestal and took on the Tories and did something that was quite noble, he started to transcend the sport. And when that happens, if you're not doing A1 all the time, there's more eyes, there's more mouths, and there's more column inches in knocking him down a peg or two. Now, I'll be the first to say that he's had a pretty awful season. But what I'll also say is Man United fans in particular, who are very critical of him, and to some extent, rightly so, need to just realise without Rashford last season, Ten Hag wouldn't be here this season. So maybe you could blame him for that. I don't know. But he had a very good season last year. And for me, it's a slam dunk because of what he's done off the field. And it's interesting because it shows how people... I was reading your question differently. When you started talking about off the field, I was starting to think about the noble stuff he's done. But you instantly went, he's doing the party, and we gave him a Willis a couple of weeks ago. And without sounding... I'm trying to avoid sounding chauvinistic here, but it's no coincidence that the minute he broke up with his long-term girlfriend and fiance this season, they've been on and off, but he's been hitting the clubs, right? And I think that's also affected his play as well. I remember reading Ferguson's book, and he was talking about one of the predeterminants for whether he signs a player is the home background, and he loved the married early kids, he loved a stable house. And in today's world, Jordan, Marcus Rashford making anywhere between 300 and 375,000 a week on the town, problems. But personally, I'm very critical of how he has been playing on the pitch this season. But that's more about me knowing what he's capable of.
Well, it's funny, Ollie, that Marvin mentions the fact that the kind of the agenda, I think Marvin's alluding to there, in some parts of the press. I heard a podcast this week that made the point, the person made the point, they think that it was also after he did what he did off the field, feeding the kids and taking on the government, that a lot of the right-wing media and press didn't like that, right? They didn't like it. And I thought it was an interesting point. But I guess my question to the person that made the point, and my question to you is, how does that translate into sports media? Are we saying then that the right-wing newspapers that do sport, they're the ones that are unfairly criticising because they've got a political agenda? I took the point, but equally I couldn't quite join the dots. If there's a right-wing agenda against him, who are these people that are doing it?
Yeah, I'm not sure really, John. I don't know if I can answer that question. I don't know how that would work, but because you're talking about different journalists. You're talking about sports journalists on one hand, and are they carrying a political edge to what they're writing about Rashford? You can only write about what you see, and the fact is, at the moment, Rashford isn't playing well. So I don't really know how you would spin that and make it seem as though it's all right and it's nothing to worry about. The fact is he's not playing well. And, that came after a period where maybe he didn't play well before last season. He had a bit of a bad period before that. But yeah, it's difficult to really judge that, Jordan, how that would actually work. I don't know. And that's not to say that sports journalists don't have agendas, but I don't know whether their agenda would spin towards something that that had to do with him and his kind of work in the community, and saying, well, you need bringing down a peg or two. I don't know, really.
It's a stretch.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I think that's bang on. Right-wing media, if a player, particularly a black one, goes against the Tories, those sports journalists that you guys seem to implying are full of integrity, they're still Tories, right?
We didn't say that.
I'm not actually saying that, no.
Like, they're Tories at the end of the day, right? And if a black player from relatively humble beginnings takes them on and wins, you think they're going to compartmentalize that and go for the sport? Like, let's be clear. I'm not saying Rashford has been playing well. I'm not saying he hasn't had bad periods. But what I am saying is, I think it's an easy connection to say, because of what he's done, this dip in form has been magnified in the way journalists, particularly from the right wing, have written about him. For me, it's like, it's not even a grey area. There's no question as far as I'm concerned.
But the thing is that Rashford was very careful during that time not to get involved with, even though he had government figures taking shots at him and trying to call him out and say, who do you think you are, kind of thing. He stepped away from a lot of that and he didn't get involved. It's not like he took sides or he wanted to get involved in, the political edge to that. He was just saying, I just want something to happen. I want my cause to be, to be magnified, and I want people to get, the help that they need. But he didn't actively take on the government, did he? At any point, did he?
I think he absolutely.
He showed up the fact that the government weren't doing enough. But what I'm saying is, when given a chance to go in on the government, he didn't actually take up that opportunity, did he?
I think there's a big difference between taking them on and showing them up, right? I don't think he intentionally wanted to show them up. I think his cause was noble, but just about the fact there's lots of children who rely on that one school dinner a day that aren't getting it. But I think he definitely took them on, because the answer from the Tories was no, 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 no. Then he wrote to them publicly, got heaps of support, because I think Boris was even asked about him. Boris was like, I'm not quite sure what's going on. And then his aides and he did what many have tried and failed. Many on the left side have been unable to do. And he made them change their mind. Their mind was made. They did not care about the children, right? And I think he absolutely took them on. I think he absolutely showed them up, and he got an MBE for all of that. And I just think any journalist who is very pro-Tory, very pro-Boris would not have liked that, whether they're sport or not. Really simple for me.
Let me move on to something he said, Joel, in his interview in the Players' Tribune. He said something, I've not got the quotes here, but he ended the sentence with, and that's all I'll say. And it was relation to how he feels he's been treated differently to other football players. Now, I deduce, maybe because my prism is always cultural and looking at the kind of the racism, I've deduced from that he was talking about being a black man. If I'm correct, and I might be wrong, but if I'm correct, do you agree? Do you think that his race has played a significant role in the criticism that he gets? Or I think, as Marvin started saying, and Ollie definitely said, he's not delivering on the pitch, so you're going to get heat.
Yeah, it's that lens again, isn't it? Everything's magnified with players like him. I think some of the decisions and choices that he's made have stoked, opinions and not necessarily in favour of or support of what he's doing. And so you're going to have that antipathy. Do you get what I'm saying as you move forward? You know what else I would say for me, just having been immersed in this game so long, Jay, like yourself, it's relationships, right? If he's a part of, I don't know, let's just say certain other agencies or is being represented by different clans, groups, squads, gangs, call it what you like. I think this goes a bit smoother, those said right-wing journalists that we're referring to and those people with views that, you know, we know are centered in racism. I don't know if they're as loud as they've been or as boisterous and vociferous with, you know, just destabilizing the perception of Marcus Rashford and using
better PR, you think?
Sorry?
He needs better PR, you think?
No, he's got great PR. And I think that because the established relationships that normal journalists, powerful journalists have, don't extend into that circle, I think that's part of the issue, you know, because they're the ones that are advising him to write open letters and to do things like what he done the other day. And they know their strength, they're powerful. And I think the people who don't like Marcus Rashford, who have a pen in their hand, they know how powerful they are. So it's a balance in that. They're trying to destabilise. He does his best just to get on with his job. His agents do what they do. So it's a circle.
Just back on the pitch now, guys, to wrap on this one. Should he look for a move away from United this summer, and should he go to the Euros as part of Gareth Southgate's squad this summer?
Yeah, he should go Euros. Why not?
Based on...
I mean, he's got half a season to get it right, man. If he starts firing towards the end, he's the type of player you take.
Marv?
We're poor, man. So if there's money on the table for him, I'll take it right now, right? If PSG are stupid enough to give us 100 million for Rash, I love him to bits, but we're so poor. And that money compared to what he's contributing on the pitch, I'll probably take the cash, George. And maybe a change is as good as a rest for him. As for England, you and Ollie both know how I feel about Southgate. And I think Joel's right. Like it's too early. Right now, I haven't got him on the plane. But I think with a good run and the sort of player he is who can really hurt a defence on his game, I think it's in the balance. I don't think it's a slam dunk yes and a slam dunk no. And yeah, I mean, if FFP didn't exist, I'll keep him forever. Do you know what I mean? But when I'm looking at Man United and the size of the overhaul that we need, we have to be able to part with the most high value players that we have. And right now, Marcus Rashford is probably at the top of that.
Quickly, Ollie, same?
I'm with Joel. I'd put him on the plane. I think he offers something that other players don't. And I'm a big fan of his. So, yeah, I'd have him on the plane for the Euros. But, yeah, I don't know whether United could afford to let him go, really. They haven't got much up front. I mean, Højlund's starting to score goals, but still, he's still you know, he's still young, so Rashford is the experience, really.
Forget United for Rashford. Does he need to move for him? Is it best for him to move?
No, not really, because anything could happen with Ten Hag in the summer. And I just think that the Ten Hag thing ain't working. And I think with a new manager, that could be as good as leaving the club. So,
all right, and George, let's be clear. We're not quite the Arsenal of old, where everyone had to move for trophies, like, you know, Van Persie and Clichy and Ashley Cole. We're not there. We're not there. We ain't got time to go into it,
but you kind of are.
We're not there yet, George. Let me tell you. And I get your mindset, because in your mind, most of your best players had to leave to win trophies. So I get the question, but we're not there yet. No, yeah.
All right.
Let's move on. You know what I mean? We're not the sort of like put it this way, Rashford ain't going Arsenal to win trophies. Like, we've got a bit of loyalty to us. Do you know what I mean? And you know what?
We'll see about that. We'll see about that. Let's keep it moving. Let's go on to some track and field now. This time, as I mentioned, is the Olympics in Paris. I'll be hoping to cover it for work. Joe, I know you'll be covering it for work. You'll be out there as well. Feels like a bit of a home games because it's so close and it's only an hour difference in time. But what I want to know, I'll start with you,
French
Joe.
won't be happy if you said that.
No, probably not. But I
French
think
won't be happy you're even there, to be honest with you. Drew thinks he's going to be met with like, open arms.
Listen, they could do a lot worse.
Beret, haven't you?
They could do a lot worse. What I want to know, Joel, is, I mean, as someone that's across track and field, how excited should the consumer, the sports consumer, be? I mean, obviously we're a few months still away from the Olympics, so I'm aware that things don't really get exciting until weeks leading up to it. We are still early.
Yeah.
But I'm looking. Go on.
No, I was gonna say that's what I would say, Jay. Like we're in terms of the Olympics, you know, that might be why the World Indoor Championships just last weekend weren't. You know, I haven't had anybody phoning my phone saying what happened in that event or this event. I mean, aside from the Dominicans, and shout out to Thea Lafond, who won herself a gold in the triple jump, first time for the country, and the St. Lucian, Julian Alfred, in the 60-meter hurdles. Shout out to her as well. They all listen to your pod, Jay, so I'm just going to make sure that we give them a shout. No. And, you know, for me, that was it. It was those kind of stories that lit up the world indoors. It wasn't really anything that we did as a nation, like GB. Don't get me wrong, big up Josh Kerr and Molly Caudry, and Gemma Ricky. You know, they done well in their respective events, 2 golds and a silver. But nothing lit it up. There was no, you could have gone up there and left and just maybe saw an event, having had a weekend in Scotland. It wasn't something you thought was, you know, a major event. And it's because everybody's getting ready for Paris. No one's taking any chances. They've got an outdoor season to navigate. I was telling my younger cousin, who was like, "Where's X? Where's Y?" And I'm like, why take the risk in an Olympic year at a World Indoor Championships where, you know, you're probably not going to boost the coffers too much. You're not going to get paid that great just for turning up, and winning a gold medal is not really going to do much for you. So you might as well just save your body for the rigors of the outdoor, because you're going to have to peak for the national championships. Then you're going to have to peak when you get to Paris, right? So if you're peaking for an indoor championships, that means you were peaking 4 times for the season. It's too much. You know, I got a belief that there are too many championships anyway, and they're moving them about, and there's all sorts going on. But in terms of what I'm excited about, not much at the moment. I'm waiting for it to all kick off outdoors. The indoor tour that preceded the World Indoors, I don't know if you caught any of it, but again, nothing really to write home about. I didn't see any earth-shattering performances. I'll tell you who I'm happy for, and I do love an underdog story, while I'll throw this out there. Christian Coleman, who took on...
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, you know. Obviously, he's not the one to kind of go missing 3 times, and I think that was the case for him, right? He didn't fail a test. So he held a ban, and ever since he's come back, he's been a bit of a black sheep. And that's what happens, I guess, there's a stain on him forever. But I'm glad that he's able to get himself back into that world-class form, because mentally you can come unstuck when you've hit the heights that he has. And let's have it right. Nobody's run the 60 meters any faster. No human being ever. Stellar athlete who, you know, his career could have been derailed by that moment. So nice to see him come back and beat the guy that everybody wants to kind of hail as the new Usain Bolt.
I wanted to move on to Noel Lyles, because he's talking greasy talk. He's talking about taking 4 golds. He's coming for 4 golds.
The guy. Don't get me wrong. He's the man. And he should have that talk. And I love that about him. I love that he's got that energy. I love that he keeps that energy as well. He doesn't go missing. He doesn't shirk. He don't hide. And he didn't have to run in Glasgow. That was kind of like that world-class, you know, quality that was needed in order to get some bums on seats. I'm not saying that they weren't selling tickets. I'm just saying
Would they have had to pay? Sorry, Joel. Would they have had to pay him more to get him there?
No, but if he kind of tweaked a hamstring like our 60-meter representative did, Jeremiah Azu, just prior to, if he tweaked a hamstring, then he wouldn't have had to fly, right? He's bigger than the world indoors, is no lies. He doesn't need to run that. He's not a 60-meter runner anyway. I don't know. Can anybody remember the last time they saw Usain run a 60? Anybody? Didn't happen, did it? You know, I just about remember interviewing Asafa at indoor championships. Never Usain. Too tall. Those big guys, they shouldn't be in that kind of race there. So they're never really going to win. The fact that he came second is great, but the quality in the field was to be desired. So it's just one of those things where I can see the sport forcing him to be the guy. I just hope that doesn't come back to bite them, because with you saying it was very organic, you know, it didn't, that nothing seemed forced. This somehow just seems a little bit rammed down your throat, like Noel's the man. We'll see. I don't know if they've got too many stars other than him in the sprint, so maybe that's why.
Well, that kind of, Marvin, links to my next question about the lack of stars. And I've been kind of pushing this question for even post to the Tokyo Games, but we are still in the post Usain Bolt era. There doesn't seem to be a crossover star coming out of track and field right now that the average sports fan or even Joe on the street can recognize or kind of cling to. How engaged in this year's Olympics do you think you will be, if at all?
Oh, you know what, George? It's an interesting way you phrased the question, right? Because I can't lie to you. I don't think I've been more disconnected from athletics than I am now. And I'm starting to wonder whether it was characters like Asafa Powell and Usain Bolt that kept me coming back. Because right now, to your point, I definitely couldn't pick out the British stars in a lineup. And Noel Lyles, I think, he's just come on my radar because of how he talked about US sport, which I think was bang on, right? But dicey if you're an American. Do you know what I mean? And I think it was then further proven when the US basketball team got beaten by someone as well. So he was totally within his realms, right? But that being said, Jordan, after all of that, Olympics, I'm going to be right there, right? Like, the Olympics is just one of those special events. And I think part of it is just because of the fact that it's so infrequent. And I'll do my more research on the lead up. I think the UK will the Great Britain will get behind the British athletes. So I'm going to be right there. My kids are getting a bit older and I think they'll enjoy it as well. So despite the fact I'm very disconnected, I think the Olympics, along with the World Cup, are just two of those events where everybody will watch and everybody will root for their countries. And I think the other thing, me being my family coming from the Caribbean, we got some half decent people here, there, and everywhere. My mum's from Grenada. Crying James won a medal back in 2012, and Grenada was on the map. Now, he ain't going to win it now, but what I'm just saying is it's a nice balance for me of, there's not many sports my family unite behind, and there's not many sports where Grenada has a chance of anything. So all of that said, I'm going to be watching as much of the sports as possible. And that isn't just track and field. I'll be watching the gymnastics, the swimming, everything. That is just a good time where you just turn on the TV and go, oh, what event is going to impress me today? I draw the line at anything horse related, though. I just want to be clear about that. Question is just really weird for me. Getting horses dancing, it's weird. But other than that, yeah, right. I'm here for it.
Just again, briefly, Ollie, are you looking forward to it? Has it got you yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Olympics, man. Like Marv says, I think, it's one to look forward to because it's not just about the track and field, but it's all the other sports that you don't really give much time to in normal life. But then when the Olympics come around, you take an interest in the hockey or even the basketball, believe it or not. I might watch a bit of that. But,
Fiji's competing.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be good to see Shelley Ann in her last Olympics as well, because she's been brilliant, and she's going to retire. So she had an amazing career. So it'd be great to see her go out with a bang. yeah, it's kind of, I do think there's characters there. I do think there's interesting matchups. I just don't think that anyone's really around who's going to replace Bout, because Usain is just, he's a once in a generation type figure. But, there's still, as Joel was saying, Noah Lyles is an interesting guy. I don't know why he competed in the indoors, because he takes 60 meters to get going. So I don't know why he bothered to run in a race against Coleman. I thought there was a strange matchup that he would go into that race knowing full well that he's probably going to lose, because in 100 meters. I was surprised he won the worlds at 100 meters, because he's always taken quite a while to get into his stride. But anyway, I like the guy. I think he's a good champion. There's good competition in the women's sprints as well. So yeah, there's really good characters there. The Norwegian guy, whose name escapes me as well, he's always good value. The 400 meter hurdles runner. What's his name again, Joe? I can't remember his name now. God, his name escapes me.
It just escaped me now.
Carsten Warholm.
That's it. I was thinking. I got the pole vault in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
But yeah, he's a real character as well. But no one's ever gonna reach the heights that Usain did in terms of a crossover star who everyone's going to know, irrespective of whether you like the sport or not.
I don't know if no one will do it. I think someone might, but you'd be hard pressed though to
yeah, I just don't think there's anyone. I don't think there's anyone like him. But I do think there are interesting matchups and really great athletes who are going to be involved in the track and field. I don't think we should just say, "Oh, there's no one out there, so it's not interesting," because there are people out there worth watching.
I just wanted to just briefly go back to, you mentioned Shelly-Ann Fraser, or Ollie did earlier on. It'll be her last Olympics. Do you think it's a stretch, Joel, to say that actually, because she's a woman, she actually didn't get the acclaim that Usain Bolt got? Because I look at both their resumes, and am I stretching here to say that I think she's got a shout to say she was had the better career? Is that a stretch? I think she's massively underplayed.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the selling and celebration of female sports stars, full stop, right? Maybe if she wasn't black, I don't know.
just start with that, Joe. She just led with that.
I don't know. Because you're right.
It's a safe space. It's a safe space. You can just say what you want.
She's super special, bro.
I agree.
You're right. I'm not afraid to talk my talk. I know business where I'm at. Right?
Okay.
It's not that. I was just thinking on the.
When I get it right. Yeah.
Would it be? I don't know. Sometimes I don't like to draw for that. I'm not like.
Yeah. Sure.
So it's not everyday racism.
No. I hear you.
Sometimes it's just what it is.
I think that's why Ollie dropped the Norwegian runner in as well. He was just trying to little roll poker.
I don't know. I think Jade. I think she'll get it. I think she'll get the adulation, and I think she's tapped into it now. I don't think. Who did she partner with? What big watch brand did she partner with the other day? Richard, what's it? Millet? Well, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
but
I'm not a watch.
Yeah, I think she partnered. So them sort of things weren't happening before. Usain partnered with Hublot real quick, but I know who his agent was, innit? And his agent's a bit special. So,
but I just mean during their career, Shelly-Ann, during her career, she's never really, beyond those that know, have been fully appreciated in the way that Usain Bolt was. Do you know what I mean?
But he's 6 foot odd doing, so I get why, but I think she might have had to do what she's done since the baby to cement or to really get the conversation going on just how good she is and just how, legendary what she's done is. Because the bottom line is their careers overlapped in it, and we were watching the big 6'5" geezer do stuff that we didn't think was humanly possible, let alone a 6 foot guy, 6'5" guy. I was in Germany to watch. You was there. You was there, Jay, weren't you?
No, not that one. No, I
was there for both of those super special, and so she's not had that moment.
Yeah,
right. She's not captivated the sport like that. What she's done has been great, but it overlapped with his.
Yeah,
and
fair
when he
enough.
tailed away, she's gone and had a baby and
Yeah, no,
come back and still doing it. And I think that is what's going to set her apart. So yeah.
I
That
mean,
makes
for me,
sense.
Jordan is stone cold. Is it because she's a woman? Yes, right. Like if as simple as that. You saying male and breaking records, her female breaking records. You don't get the same.
No, but she
thing.
didn't break the record.
She didn't break the record. Fair.
And I think
But
that's another
medal-wise,
thing, right? That's another
I
issue,
think
right?
fair.
If she'd have bought Flojo's record, I think she might have more than Rashard Millet to contend with.
And I think it's characters as well, right? She's not a character. She's an excellent athlete. But you saying, like, when he got on the mic, people couldn't help but smile and hear what he wants to say, right?
I know, man. The girl with the weaves and all that.
Yeah, I think she was a personality.
For a minute, man.
The thing is, George's year wasn't sports related, I think. I'm going to be honest with you. The year was a bit too low octave-wise.
I'm going to keep it respectful. Let's keep it moving. Let's do our doc watch, guys. You know, every week we watch a sport documentary, and we give it our thoughts and we give it a rating. This week, well, it's a series, so I don't think I have not gone through the whole of it. I don't think Ollie has either. We did season 6 of Drive to Survive. Marvin, I know you finished this one. I think apart from Last Dance, this is probably Netflix's best sports docu-series, and I guess it's different because this is in real time. I can't think of many Netflix doc series that have been as good as this, apart from Last Dance. What were your overall thoughts on it? I'm 3 eps in. I've got, I think, 3 more to watch.
I agree, Jude. Like, I think I've told you before, I love it, and it genuinely brought me back to the sport. I've always liked Formula One, but the fly on the wall doc, it's actually got a bit tongue in cheek now with the drivers when they're filming. Like, they joke about, Netflix followed me into the toilet and blah blah blah. But I think the Last Dance was great, especially for those that were probably too young to really appreciate Jordan. But with this one, I think it's had a bigger impact for the actual sport. I think the documentary has brought new people to it. I think people are genuinely now more interested. I think it told a different side to the drivers and the amount of pressure they consistently are under to perform. I think it's brilliant. I think this season was really good. I've got a good friend who's a massive Hamilton fan who refuses to watch it because of how much of a procession that the last season was. But interestingly enough, the full season really doesn't get into the Max Hamilton stuff. It does a lot of coverage about things that we don't see. And I think, George, you've talked about that before, about some of and I think we'll get onto it with punditry, is like some of these documentaries, you want to learn stuff. You want to see a side that you don't have ready access to. And I think it does it in absolute spades. So yeah, I'm a big fan. And actually, I'll be talking about it a bit more as we come to the Willis section as well.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how much you've seen of it, Ollie, but I think it's episode 2. There's a bit where Hamilton's with a couple of the man there and he's on the track. And then he's saying something. I think he's slagging off a car. And then he remembers quickly the cameras are watching him. And he's mic'd. And he says something like, the mics, Netflix. And that's sort of kind of like forgetting that even though there's probably 10 cameras there, because they're there so often, even they at times forget that they are mic'd up. And I love that access. That made me chuckle because you can see on his face, he quickly realized that he was saying something that he didn't want to be recorded. How many eps are you in, and what are your thoughts?
I've watched the first couple of episodes, and yeah, it's a phenomenon, isn't it? It's amazing, the technical flair in these episodes. The first one of the new series. I mean, it's like, I thought I was watching a Bond film or something. It's like you're watching like Lawrence Stroll turning up on this big boat, and it's like, what is going on here? I thought this was a sports scene, and then he's getting on this boat, and I'm thinking like it's some big like scene from a Bond film or something. It's like, wow, man, and all the aerial shots that they take, and I really like what I really like the way they do is at the beginning of each episode, they give you a little sort of vignette of what's coming up kind of thing. And I really like the way that they tell a little story before you actually get into the episode properly. I kind of like the way they do that as well. But yeah, the whole Lawrence Stroll, Aston Martin, and the way that they bring you into that story was really well done. And I really think it's something else, man. In terms of documentary, it's kind of taking you somewhere else because it's giving you all of the stuff that you would get in a film, really, about the sport, and it's brilliantly done. For someone who doesn't follow Formula One, I mean, I know what's going on in the sport, but I don't follow it like Marv said he follows it. But I liked all of the sort of the kind of behind the scenes stuff. And in the second episode, you just see how brutal a sport it is, because within the glitz and the glamour, you got all the glitz and the glamour, and then you've just got Christian Horner is cold. He's cold. It's just like, wow, this guy's, I'm not going to give anything away, but this guy's dream gets shattered, man. You're just like, wow.
One season is like, you're done.
Yeah, but Jordan, it's not even a season. He doesn't even get a season. It's cold, man. It
is cold.
But he says, he prefaced it right at the beginning saying, it's one thing being a nice guy. It's great being a nice guy, but nice guy ain't gonna give you ain't gonna keep your seat as a nice guy. You know what I mean? You got to deliver, and that's when you realise that this is what we seem to forget. And I think Marv mentioned this, a couple of pods ago, that we watch sports people and we don't really see them as human beings. You know what I mean? We're just seeing them as the sports stars. But on a day-to-day level, we kind of on the outside looking in sort of wonder what's going on with them and what's happening. But actually, you don't realise the pressure they're under every day to deliver. You got to deliver. Do you know what I mean? It's like, when all's said and done, you can talk as much as you want. You can be as nice as you like. But if you don't deliver, you're done. You're done. And that, especially in sports like football and in Formula One, high-end sport is brutal. And it really comes across in this sport. It's the glitz and the glamour. But underneath all of that is cold, hard results. They want you to deliver. There's big money at stake and reputations at stake. And if you don't deliver, you're out, man. It's harsh.
Do you know what's funny about that, George? You know what's funny about that, George? It's the fact that, when we talk about football and people have an opinion, right? Like, might say Rashford's good, and I might say, actually, he's not that great. And we'll say, well, look at what he does. With Formula One, there's no hiding place. It's just seconds. It's simple seconds. How fast are you? And you look at Perez and Verstappen, the first race that's just gone, Verstappen finished 30 seconds ahead of Perez in the same car. He could have pitted and had a cigar. So no one can say, Perez is driving well. Yeah. You're in the same car. That's why it's so ruthless. It's amazing. And the second episode was brilliant. And I didn't shed a tear anyway, because last season he was a bit like that last season. So I didn't care. Yeah.
All right, Marv, give me a rating out of 5.
I'm going to give this one 5, man. I love it. And I'm giving it 5. And the whole thing, 5. It's never had a bad season, even with as boring as the actual seasons are, where Max is just it's easy for him. It's a great view. I think that's the quickest I've finished a season in a long time on Netflix. So 5 for me.
I think Marv can give a 5 because he's watched the whole thing. I don't think I can give a 5 for something I haven't watched right through, but I'm giving it a 4, a hard 4 that would probably end up as a 5 once I've gone through the whole series. But yeah, for really upending what a sports documentary can be, they probably deserve the 5, really, and it probably will be a 5 by the time I get to the end.
I echo that. I've not finished it yet. 4 for me. I think it will be a 5. Great characters. The way it's shot is amazing. Behind the scenes access, storylines, some pretty women in there as well. It's global. It's just got it all.
Wait until the two of you get to the Alpine episode. That's when I know. You're going to give it a 5.
Big mark there for Drive to Survive. Right, let's go on to our last topic, guys. Let's talk pundits. It's a big talking point, I think, in our WhatsApp group and probably most people's WhatsApp groups. And the question I kind of posed at the top there was, how underserved as football fans do we think we are? And what I want to do, and I will start with you, Joel, what I want to do is look at this through the prism of all sports, right? So we're looking at primarily football, but versus other sports. We all watch other sports. We all consume and work in other sports via the media. So as a football fan, first of all, Joel, what do you think is the current standard of punditry that we get? We're paying our Sky subscription, we're paying our TNT, Amazon, whatever it may be. And it's a big part of the game now. Punditry is as big as a game almost. Do you think we're getting a high standard of analysis and punditry from our pundits?
Not across the board, no. In a nutshell, there are certain times you're watching a match and the punditry is just below par. But I think despite the proliferation of channels and opportunities for whoever wants to get into that space to do that, I think is why we find ourselves being in there's such a diversity of talent in it. And then sometimes you could be watching a game and you're looking at the pundits or listening to them and they're not really offering much, or you're trying to work out who they are, let alone how they got there. But then I guess you look at the sharp end and some of the better pundits, I'm not going to call no names, but you think, is it just jobs for the boys, right? So you gotta. It's finding that pathway to nurture the talent, give them an opportunity to get better without us crushing them on the way up, right? And just understanding that there's so many different places to watch sport, specifically football, that you're gonna get a diversity in talent and standards. So I think that's just where we are.
Marvin, give me a succinct definition of what a pundit's job is.
I think we talked about this before, and I referenced it. Is a good pundit used to be the keyword, George, giving the viewer insight and a perspective that's not the obvious, right? So for football, I want to see some analysis and bits of play that wasn't easily identifiable to my naked eye during the match, but looking back, brilliant. That's not what punditry is today for me.
Okay. Ollie, who were the pundits that you think? Let's start a positive. Who are the pundits that you do particularly rate across sport? It can be football as well. I've just got a few names here that I think they're brilliant pundits. I think Nasser Hussain is amazing in cricket. Michael Johnson in athletics is amazing. Maggie Alfonso in rugby, she's brilliant. And he was a whack player. Don't get it twisted. He was awful. But Tim Henman in tennis is a decent pundit, you know. Tim Henman, I think he's pretty good. I think he's a decent. I think his understanding of the game and his articulation, that word? His articulating of what's happening, what happened, what should happen. I think he's a very good speaker on the sport. Those are some of the people that I think across sports I really, really kind of gravitate towards. Who are the people that you would have stand? And Thierry Henry, I think, the best in football. Who are the standard bearers for you across sport?
Henry. Oh, that's interesting.
It's not interesting when you think about who's saying it.
You're right. You did say Johnson, didn't you? You put Johnson in there, didn't
Yes,
you?
Michael Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go with all of those apart from Henry. But I also say Atherton is a very good pundit, and he writes really well. So I would say him as well. A really thoughtful character. But I just there aren't many in football that I particularly like. I have to say that most of them now just seem to be looking for the big quote or the thing that's gonna. It's going to be put on social media and they're going to get a lot of clicks from. So I don't particularly like many of the football pundits. I do think that Monday Night Football was really good when Neville and Carragher first started and they were really giving you insight. But now I just feel as though they're kind of going down that road of really looking to make the big comment a lot of the time, which. As Marv's saying, I just want a bit of. I just want insight. But I understand maybe that's not the world we live in anymore. Maybe that's kind of maybe that's yesterday's game, and now it's all about sort of making sure that people taking in your content, whether they're watching the sport or whether, like CBS's coverage, they're kind of getting you to watch stuff vicariously just through the clips that they post online. So that's maybe that's the way the game's going, and that's the way sport's going. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the kind of the happy medium is with all this, because I still crave that kind of insight. But all I'm getting now is, let's be honest, all of the conversation post the Rumbelows Cup final was about Neville's comment and about, whether Chelsea had been beaten by a bunch of Liverpool's kids. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's not really.
Did you call it the Rumbelows?
Yeah, I always called it the Rumbelows. Yeah,
I thought I called it the Carling. I thought
you called it Carling. No, the thing is, Rumbelows is just like it basically.
I know what you mean. I don't even need to explain it.
It just sums up the League Cup. Some defunct shop is now is.
What do you make?
For our younger viewers, go on.
First one. What's the first one? What's the Charity Shield? Would you make a Pep trying to claim that then?
Pep?
As a
but I do. As I say, I don't know. Getting back to the point, I just feel that. The conversation after doesn't really go into telling us much about the game that we watched. It's just a kind of a throwaway line about kids, and as has been shown, Chelsea had younger players on the pitch than Liverpool at the start and at the end. So it doesn't even make sense.
No, but I think the point is, although age-wise, Liverpool might have had older kids, experience-wise, they're light years behind. I think that was what was lost in all the hype. Do you know what I mean? I think factually, yeah, Liverpool might have had a younger team, but experience-wise, they're under 18s. The kids.
No, I get that point, and I understand that, but yeah, I don't know.
What's kind of? I'll take your point onto Joel. Do you think that pundits these days, in football in particular, do have too much say in setting the agenda for the week based on what they say on Monday Night Football, or what Roy Keane and Carragher say on Super? Do they have too much say in the discourse for the next 7 days based off of what they of their super line or their whatever their headline may be?
Yeah, it's the coach. It's a changing culture, I guess, for us as olders consuming the sport in this country, right? My partner's Italian, and when she loves football, and when she first came to this country, she was like, they would be a game on Sunday, game on Saturday, game on Sunday. They would talk about it on Sunday night, talk about it on Monday night. Wednesday, they're still talking about the same thing. And she came from a culture like that. So I guess it's just maybe swings and roundabouts. Like I said, for me, it's just airtime. People have got to fill it. People understand the value of the shock culture, or going viral, and they're upselling, aren't they, constantly, rather than just being, when I like to, just to Marv's point, I like to, whenever I get the chance to listen to Jose Mourinho, I'm a fan, I like to listen, because he seems to be trying to impart knowledge, right? Helping one to understand the game, how he sees it. Obviously, he's gone deep. I like listening to him. So there's certain people I like listening to, but they're not necessarily pundits. They might be in the studio that day.
Marv, I know you watch a lot of American sports. People often compare, pundits in basketball, NFL, and other American sports, and they kind of rave about how they're so much better. Is that true and fair? And if so, why?
I can't speak too much for NBA, because I don't think they're as good. But the NFL is good mainly because when you have ex-players, they can just look at how a team is set and they can call what's going to happen before it's even happened. Because quarterbacks, whether they retired 20 years ago or last year, they can read the defense, whether they're playing zone or man to man. So he's going to go long to that wide receiver. And then when he does it, you almost say, like these guys really know their stuff. I think going back to what Joel said, though, Jordan, it's just about the way you ingest stuff now, right? Because to us, like, remember back in the days, you did a really good piece on the pod when we talked about Gazzetta and Serie A, right? We didn't have the internet, right? Like, we just didn't have it, right? So we watched the games and we just wanted to get as much football as possible. So we listened to the punditry, we listened to what people had to say, because other than that and reading the paper, what did you have? Whereas now, I'm missing Bayern Munich. After this game, I'll go online and I'll find it in a minute. It's already cut, 7 minutes, give me what I need, can talk to you about Kane's goal, and then move on with my life. Do you know what I mean, George? So it's almost like the reason why punditry to an extent has declined is because we don't need it as much. The availability is just so there that now it's a case of, how do we stay relevant? How do I stay on Jordan's phone? What do I do? Do I give him some great insight? Is that what he's going to search for? Or is he going to search for headlines? Is he going to search for someone just being, like, as far as I'm concerned, Gary Neville was just offensive to Chelsea, right? There was no other way to say it. And then what happened? That quote that Gary Neville did then was a question asked to Pochettino in the press conference. And that's just the way it is now. So I think they're giving us what we want, and by we I say society. The kids don't care anymore, George. They don't care. They'll say their own thing. Do you know what I mean?
My son don't care. Just the last point. My son don't. He gets up, eye player, watches the match, skips the punditry on his phone, watches goals, everything. He doesn't watch 90 minutes of football, let alone sit down and listen to them man jibber jabber. The way they consume the sport now, it's really interesting for me to observe. Because me and his football coach, we're of this generation. We're like, you can sit down and watch matches, watch the game. My son's looking at us like, I just skip through that. Like, he's looking, they're all of them. They'd rather play it. They don't get pundits. Last thing they're caring about.
Well, I've got two final quick questions. We've got to be quick, so we're well over now. Do you think, to Marvin's point, Ollie, that a lot of journals are getting lazy? Because a lot of them, in the example of Gary Neville, are just saying, well, there's pundits like Gary Neville, or some people are saying X, Y, Z. Maurizio, what do you think? Or Mikel, what do you think? And they're kind of almost using that. Or do you think that's actually good journalism? Because they're not lying.
It's an American thing, Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an American thing. I remember sitting in it was Wimbledon, the first time I clocked it was happening. And I was in the press conference after, and they would ask questions in a certain type of way that would evoke an answer. It was always tetchy between them and the tennis. And I never understood it. But obviously they travel the circuit. They're always asking them questions, trying to get underneath their skin and unearth different stuff. But it's the way they ask questions. And it's seeped into the way we do things here now. And it's easy.
Do you think it's
I find, I don't know about you, Jay, but I find it easy. You might as well.
The thing is, it's been going on for years, though, isn't it? Because if you've ever been to a football press conference, and I'm sure both you guys have, I've been to football press conferences, and you watch, and even if you just watch them on Sky Sports News, sometimes the first couple of questions they'll ask them is about some story in the newspapers. You know what I mean? They don't ask them about the team or whatever. They might ask who's fit and whatever, but then after that, it's about, oh, there's a story in the paper about this. There's a story in the paper, you're interested in this player. Oh, Erling Haaland has said... I mean, today, Erling Haaland, I saw his interview for a pre-Champions League interview, and it's all about Haaland said, oh, yeah, he might be interested in leaving City or whatever. So they're asking him that question. You know what I mean? So that's
Is that not a fair question to ask?
It's a fair question to ask, but when your whole press conferences are dominated by this stuff that's written in the media that might or might not be true, or might be something that is kind of just fishing for a story, then I just wonder if that's really serving the fan. Because me, as a football fan, if it's my team and I'm watching a press conference, I kind of want to know what's going on with the team. I don't really want to know about the speculation unless it's something serious that can be verified. I don't want journalists spending their time fishing. You know what I mean? And that's what they're doing a lot of the time.
And just finally, very briefly, Marvin, what's the future then for pundits? Do you think broadcasters will realise, as Joel said, the new generation of kids, maybe not even as young as Joel's son, but a lot of people, they're not even watching the pundits. They're not coming to Top Super Sunday for the hour build-up with Roy Keane, Micah Richards. They come in for 2:00 the game, the kickoff, and they're going about their business at 4 p.m. Do you think the broadcasters will recognise that and that will change who they book and how they do their programming?
I think you'll see more of the same, George. I don't think Gary Neville and Carragher are going anywhere anytime soon. But actually, it's an interesting point you make, because what I could easily see is the big corporations trying to ride the wave. So those YouTubers, those people that do the watch-alongs, the gold bridges of this world, the expressions, you're going to see more of them on the TV. Because the corporations are going to make the assumption that because they've got so many views on YouTube, that bringing them onto their stages, that they'll bring that young audience with them. And I'm not sure that's true. I think that youngster's going to watch him on the bus or when he hasn't got access to a TV. But beyond that, I think it's just going to be more of the same. And you definitely will get less insight. I think we talked about Nader Manua before and how much great stuff he's been saying. But I don't think we'll see him on the TV ahead of an Expressions, for instance.
I hear it. All right, let's move on, guys. Finally, it's time for this.
What you talking about, Willis?
Marvin, take us away.
This was a hard one. It was a draw. So I'm going to give a quick honorary mention to Mr. Christian Horner for his leaked text to a Red Bull member of staff. The whole, I saw you on the plane and I went to the toilet and finished myself off. It was more interesting than this weekend's race. And the fact that poor Jerry Halliwell, all over the Netflix series, is now under the spotlight, was A1. But I think because it's what you're talking about, Willis, we've got to go with things that people actually say. And I've got to give it to Rio Ferdinand this week, George. I don't know. It goes back to what we've talked about with punditry and people saying stuff for clicks. But to suggest that Mikel Arteta, right, with a legitimate shot of the trophy of the Premier League trophy this season, if Man United called, would dump Arsenal and go to Manchester United, no question.
It's embarrassing.
There was no one with him. There was no one since him. There was no one after. Even Arteta was like, "Wowza, that's some bull if ever I've heard it." It to me, it reeked of doing things for clicks. Right? There is not one iota of evidence that suggests that Arteta would ever do that, and especially in the disarray Man United are in. Unless we're gonna 10x his wages, it was a ridiculous comment. And I'm really disappointed in Rio because I genuinely like the guy. I really do. But that was, if it wasn't his own platform, right? Because he said it on 5. If it wasn't his own platform, he probably wouldn't get a job for a while because people would just think he's on the booze. Do you know what I'm saying? It was that ridiculous.
Marv, just go and I'll get Ollie's input and Joe in a second briefly. But mine was just, it links back to our previous discussion about pundits and just saying the mad thing. And Rio Ferdinand has got a high profile already, and I think a lot of people don't rate him as it is. That's a personal opinion. But why he feels like he's falling into the kind of YouTubey trap, the YouTubey world of just saying the mad thing for clicks. But what I don't understand is that you're Rio Ferdinand. You don't need to say something wild to get attention. You're Rio Ferdinand. Now, whether I like him or not, again, is a separate issue. But when he said that, and then he said something else recently as well that was mad. The whole Saka Foden thing, and he kind of doubled down on making an error. And said, no, I didn't say that, but I said he's world class. And I just think he's overexposed, and I think he's realizing that he's got a connection with a younger audience and trying to tap into that. But I don't think he's doing it very intelligently. I think he's just doing it in a way that's just wild.
Is there intelligence to that, though? Is there any intelligence?
Or trying to tap into a younger market. Because remember, there'll be kids watching.
I don't think he's trying. I think he's doing it, and he's succeeding.
It's interesting, George, though, right?
But in a really bad way. The execution is not good.
I don't know. We ain't seen the numbers.
Well, that's the thing, George, right? Like, I think some youngsters and even some, like, just older people would go, let me go on to 5 and just get the context, because he couldn't be that stupid. And if you do that, then he's got what he wanted to an extent, right? Because 5 as a platform, I don't know how it's performing, and they've got some decent people on there, but I think it's those sorts of ridiculous comments that will give his platform the profile, right? So I think, I know you're saying he's Rio, he doesn't need to do that, but if he's got grand designs of making his platform one of the biggest in that space, then I think he does, right? But I was really embarrassed for him, because it wasn't, and for those of you that haven't seen the clip, he's like 100%. Like, he's so
chest.
It's delusions of grandeur, and I get it to the point where Man United are a much bigger club than Arsenal, and I get all of that. But right now, Rio, when you're battling with Liverpool and City versus, what are we, like 8th, 6th, 7th? Arteta ain't going anywhere.
Joel, Marv, Ollie, thank you for your time. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, comment, share the thing. You know what to do by now. Thanks for your time, boys. We'll see you next week. Peace.